The night started like any normal evening in a quiet American town where nothing ever really happens and people sleep without locking their doors. But by midnight, that peace would be completely destroyed, and the entire town would be pulled into a nightmare no one saw coming. It was the kind of place where kids rode bikes after school, neighbors knew each other by name, and the police chief was respected like a symbol of safety. But behind that calm surface, something dangerous was already moving silently. Karen was not famous, not rich, not powerful, at least not on the surface. He was just a quiet boy who blended into the background, someone teachers described as invisible, someone classmates barely noticed. But invisibility can sometimes be the most dangerous thing in the wrong situation, because Karen's life was not as simple as it looked. His father was a man tied to secrets buried deep inside old police records, cases that had been closed but never solved completely. Names that were erased, evidence that disappeared, and decisions that had consequences even years later. And the police chief of the city knew this better than anyone. He had spent years cleaning up those cases, protecting the department's image and making sure certain truths never reached the public. But what he did not know was that the past never stays buried forever. That evening, the police chief was at home when the call came in. His daughter was missing. At first, it sounded like confusion. Maybe she stayed late, maybe she went with a friend, but within minutes that hope died because she was not answering her phone, her location was off, and witnesses said she never left school. Grounds panic does not describe what a father feels in that moment, especially a father who has built his entire life around catching criminals, suddenly becoming one of them in the worst kind of way, a helpless one. Within minutes, the entire police department was activated, patrol units blocked roads, helicopters were launched, and every officer in the city was searching. But something felt wrong from the beginning. There were no signs of forced entry, no struggle, no witnesses, just silence. And that silence was louder than anything else. Then came the first strange detail: security. Footage from the school parking lot showed a figure near the back exit around the exact time she disappeared. It was blurry, but the height, the walk, the posture all matched one person. Karen, at first, detectives refused to jump to conclusions. It was too fast, too convenient, but as they reviewed more footage, a pattern started forming. Karen had been seen near the area multiple times that week, always at unusual hours, always staying out of clear camera angles. The police chief refused to believe it at first. Karen was just a boy, a kid, not a criminal, not someone capable of something this serious, but experience teaches one thing: truth does not care about age or appearance. The first official lead came when a small piece of cloth was found. Near the school fence, it matched the hoodie Karen was seen wearing in multiple clips. That was the moment doubt turned into suspicion. Meanwhile, Karen continued his normal life, completely unaware that his world was collapsing around him. He went home, ate dinner, walked through his neighborhood, even greeted a neighbor, not knowing that detectives were already tracking his movements. Inside the police department, tension was rising fast. The police chief was no longer acting like an officer. He was acting like a father trapped between fear and rage. Every passing minute felt like torture. Every unanswered call felt like a punishment. Then the second message arrived. This time it was not vague, it was direct and personal. If you want your daughter alive, stop reopening old files. That sentence changed everything, because there was only one case that matched that description. An old corruption investigation that had been buried years ago. A case involving internal betrayal, illegal protection deals, and officers who were never charged. The police chief had worked on that case personally and shut it down under pressure from higher authorities, but clearly someone had never forgotten it, and now it was coming back with a price. The investigators quickly realized this was not a random kidnapping. This was targeted. It was controlled, and it was connected to something much deeper inside the system itself. Karen's name kept appearing in the background of every lead. But still, nothing was direct enough to make a full arrest. But the chief knew one thing for sure: time was running out. Every hour increased the danger, every delay made the situation worse, and every choice now carried consequences that could not be undone. Inside the city, fear started spreading. Rumors, leaked news reports hinted at something serious, but nothing was confirmed. The public only knew one thing: the police chief's daughter was missing, and the case was getting darker by the hour. And then something unexpected Happened a witness came forward. Someone reported seeing Karen near an abandoned warehouse on the edge of town the same night the girl disappeared. That location was immediately flagged and units were sent, but when they arrived, nothing was there except an old locked door and fresh tire marks on the ground. The realization hit hard. This was not a random act. This was planned, and Karen was not just nearby, he was involved. The police chief made a decision that broke every protocol he had ever followed. He would no longer wait for procedure. He would go directly into the field himself because now it was no longer just a case. It was personal. And somewhere in the shadows, Karen was unknowingly standing at the center of a storm that was about to destroy everything he thought was normal. But what no one realized yet was that the truth behind this kidnapping was not just about revenge or corruption. It was about something much bigger, something that had been hidden for years and was finally coming to the surface, and the next move would change everything. The police chief arrived at the abandoned warehouse just as the sun was starting to set. The air was heavy, and every step felt like it was leading deeper into something dangerous. Every officer with him was on high alert because this was no longer a missing person case. It had turned into something far more serious. Inside the warehouse, everything was silent except for the sound of slow footsteps and distant metal creaking. The place looked empty at first, but the tension in the air said otherwise. The police chief raised his hand, signaling the team to split and search carefully, and then they found a chair in the center of the room, rope marks on the floor, and a phone placed neatly on top of a wooden box. It was her phone. The daughter of the police chief, a message was still open on the screen. The truth comes out when you stop protecting the past. The police chief clenched his jaw because now he understood this was not about money. This was not even about revenge. This was about exposing something buried inside old police files, something connected to his own history. Outside the warehouse, a second lead broke open. Witnesses confirmed seeing Karen's car near the location. More than once, but something strange came up in the investigation. Karen was not acting alone. There were signs of someone guiding him, someone older, someone who understood how the system worked. Meanwhile, Karen was finally located at a small motel. On the edge of town, he looked nervous, confused, and completely unaware of what was happening around him. When officers entered, he tried to run, but was quickly stopped. He kept repeating that he had done nothing wrong, that he was only told to deliver something and not ask questions, but no one believed him at first because the evidence was already stacking against him. But then something unexpected happened. One of the detectives played a hidden recording recovered from a nearby security camera. And in that recording, Karen was seen meeting a man whose face was hidden who handed him instructions and a phone. The man clearly told him to keep the girl safe and wait for further orders. That changed everything. Karen was not the mastermind. He was being used. Back at headquarters, the police chief listened to the recording in silence, and for the first time his anger shifted into something deeper realization. This case was never just about his daughter. It was about the old corruption case he had closed years ago. Someone from that past had returned and was now targeting him through his family. The real enemy was still out there, and Karen had just been a pawn. The police chief immediately ordered a full tactical response. All units were redirected not to arrest, but to locate the real handler behind the operation. Hours later, a breakthrough came from forensic analysis of the messages. The source was traced back to an old internal police communication system, one that only senior-level officers had access to. That meant only one thing. The suspect was someone from inside the department. The atmosphere turned cold. Every officer started looking at each other differently. Trust was breaking apart because the enemy was not outside anymore. It was inside the system, and then the final piece arrived. A location ping from the daughter's phone appeared briefly before disappearing again, but it was enough to track a moving vehicle heading out of the city. The police chief personally joined the chase. Sirens filled the roads as they pushed forward faster than ever. Knowing every second mattered, when they finally reached the coordinates, they found an abandoned vehicle but no sign of the girl. Instead, there was another message left. Behind, you chose the wrong side years ago. Now you will pay the price properly. The police chief stood in silence, realizing the truth was far bigger than he ever imagined. This was not just revenge. It was a long-planned revenge against everything. He had built his career on Karen. He was never the criminal. He was just the trigger. The real storm was still coming, and this time it would not be easy to stop.